had nothing detached from any investments over there.
Okay. So what propagated the move from California here?
Timing is everything, and looking for opportunities when something bad happens. There's usually something good at the end of that for me. And I've now come to the point where if something bad happens in my life, I go, okay, there might be something good wrapped around this, or it's coming up later. You just got to be patient. You got to take action. You just can't sit around. But after doing things the wrong way, getting frustrated when things went bad, I learned that, okay, wait, something good is coming.
Welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Jessica Carice, and this space is a place where we talk about seemingly random topics, but in all actuality, they're connected together. And we have a very, very special guest, Joel Gandara. He is the founder of the 31 Daily Challenges. He is also a business creator of multi-million-dollar businesses. He's an author, a coach, a husband, and an Army dad patriot. His son's in the Army. And he also comes from very humble beginnings. He was an immigrant from Cuba and made his way to the U.S. for his family to find a better life here. So welcome,
Thank
Joel.
you. Thanks for having me, Jessica.
So you are the founder of 31 Daily Challenges. What does that look like? And what does your current day-to-day look like?
Yeah, very different from my past. It's a new part of my life now in the last couple of years. And the purpose of it is to help. I work with the men. My wife, Jessica, who's also same name, Jessica, works with women. And what we do is we help people become the best version of themselves. And maybe that sounds cliche, but it really does work. We take people for 31 days in a challenge series. I wrote a book for men. She wrote a book for women. We do it in a group together in a class where we communicate through WhatsApp and Zoom. And it's just 31 days. And it really does change lives. We've had over 500 people do it in the last 18 months since we started it. And the feedback that we get on a daily basis is amazing. It's like, someone got out of day 17, they pulled something that impacted their life. And now they're going to do that for the next few decades. Let's say they only got that one thing out of that one day. Okay, but you do that for several decades now and it changes your life. And the focus is on becoming a better person as an individual, a better parent, a better spouse, just a better citizen, everything that would make you live to your full potential. And as far as day to day, my days of working 12 hours and 16 hours a day, those are gone. They're long gone. Years ago, when my business got to a certain point, my previous business, I started working a lot less and I got myself even down to like 4 hours a week.
Wow.
And enjoying my family, my friends, my kids. But then we got back on the horse after we sold our company last summer and dedicated ourselves to what we're doing now. And it's really like a passion project. It's become a business, but it was a passion project. So my day now is a few hours a day, sometimes one-on-one calls with people that I coach personally one-on-one, and then group assignments where we're working together out through WhatsApp, communicating, Zoom calls. And I've got a couple of different men's groups that all stem from the 31 days. That's like my boot camp. That's where guys start. And then we go from there. So yeah, that's what I get to do now.
Yeah.
I don't have to do anything. I get to do all these things now.
That's so funny. That's really funny. Because, the purpose why I started this podcast is to help other people become their best selves. And so it's so funny that, I've known you, we've met a couple times over the past few years through a mutual friend. Well, he's your cousin, Kadir. Yeah. And for me, myself, I just went through my own personal transformation last year, And so now, I have a clear focus, clear purpose of what I'm trying to go towards and what I want to help other people with. And it's just so funny how now it's the right time for us to collaborate and talk and discuss what does that really look like to become your best self. And so for you and your journey of becoming your best self, would you say you always had those values, or was it something that developed when you first came to America, or what did that journey look like for you?
Yeah, so early on, it looked like detentions, getting in trouble, not fitting in school. Something was very different about me. I've since learned from two psychologists who've told me I have ADHD. I always had ants in my pants in school. I knew I was different. I knew I didn't fit in, but I didn't know that, I wanted to become the best version of myself. That wasn't the vocabulary, especially when you're young. I just thought, I don't fit in. I'm very different. I don't know what's going on, but I like to win. Ever since I was little, I like to play sports and win and have fun being active. And those things lend themselves, I think, to improving, because I could focus on the physical. And if I'm at my top physical condition that I can be at my age, then that, to me, it's like, you tell me how you do anything, I'll tell you how to do everything. So that has helped me, because being disciplined enough to eat well, to sleep well, to exercise, that's helped me think about, well, maybe I could do those same habits in reading a little bit more, in learning something new every year, in going to a marriage retreat with my wife, in, all the things that you could fill that in with. So it wasn't like I was ever taught these things early on, or I was on this mission. You kind of go little by little figuring it out. And that's how it's been for me, kind of organic.
Yeah, I would say the same thing happened for me too. Bits and pieces of, okay, this is working here. All right, let's see what it looks like here.
Yeah.
But for me, I had a lot of mental and emotional challenges I had to overcome. Did you have that as well? Like, especially migrating from Cuba to here, what was that like?
Yeah, I had a lot of insecurities. I'm sure you can relate to this. I always felt like, well, why me, and how me? Because no one in my neighborhood ever succeeded that I saw, where I grew up in just outside of Oakland, California. The guy that a lot of the kids looked up to, whether we wanted to be like him or not, something that we saw that, wow, well, that's one way, was a drug dealer on the corner. His name was Beto, and he had a nice car. And we saw him with money. He'd sometimes take out a wad of cash, and you see those things as a little kid. So that's not the direction I wanted to go in, but that's what you're seeing. And we didn't have this guidance of like, oh, these are potential, like, hey, let me show a 10-year-old kid 10 successful people that he or she can get an idea of different directions. I didn't have that. I don't know if you did, but I never had any of that. So you kind of just figure it out. You get role models from people you don't want to follow. Like, okay, that I definitely don't want to do. Or television shows, right? You watch something and you go, oh, I want to be a dad like that. I saw that many times. So yeah, you just figure it out piece by piece, little by little.
So how did you not get caught up with wanting to actually be like Beto?
Okay, I didn't want to sell drugs. I proudly can say I'm almost 49 and I've never even tried marijuana. I've never done a drug. So I didn't get into that world at all. But I did get caught up in some stuff. Again, I had a few things in my mind at a young age. I did not want to live in that neighborhood. I felt like I could do better than that. My parents couldn't, because they got here in their 30s with 2 kids, no English, and they couldn't. I couldn't expect them to have gotten us out of that neighborhood. But I didn't want to live there. So early on, I started making money with toys that I would sell, with trading cards, with chocolates. I was always doing stuff to make money from an early age, with simple ambitions to buy some snacks after school and to buy myself some toys. That's all I wanted to do. But then, you get older and you go, oh, maybe I could buy a car. Maybe I could move out of here. And you slowly go up at that rank, little by little, if you work hard and be smart. But yeah, I got caught up. I was working at a shoe store in high school, part-time after school. And I got a brilliant idea. If I could just take some of these shoes illegally, steal them, I could sell them and make a few extra bucks. And, these are $50 in the store, but if I can get 20, 25 for them, maybe I can make some money. And I would go to school and I'd sell some shoes. I'd take them to anywhere in the ghetto, open the trunk, and people would buy them. And I did that. And I did it a few times. And the way I did it was I'd have a friend come in and I'd say, come in like a customer and I'll show you shoes. You try them on. And then I'm going to bag 4 shoes for you, and you're going to walk out the door like a customer. One of those shoes is for you. The rest are mine. You give it to me tomorrow at school or wherever. And I did this for a little while. And I thought I was pretty bright. I go, I'm pretty smart. This is working. I've probably taken, I don't know how many shoes, hundreds of pairs. I don't know. And until the day I got caught. And it was 17 days after my 18th birthday. What does that mean? I'm an adult. I was a high school senior. I was still a kid, but I was an adult now. Had it happened 18 days before, I was a kid. It would have been a slap on the wrist. You go home. I spent the night in jail, and it was an eye-opener. I was this kid, and I remember the first thing they did, other than put me in handcuffs, take me in a car, and take me to the jail, was there was all these guys in a big room behind bars, and they started yelling at me when I first got there. And they're all telling me what they're going to do to me. I was really freaked out. I go, oh, my God. And what really confirmed it and scared me a lot was when the one cop says to the other one, don't put him in there with the rest of them. Let's put him over here by himself. And they put me in a room by myself for a little while. And then I thought, I guess they're going to keep me in here. But it's like solitary confinement, a tiny little room. And then later they said, no, we're going to move you with the rest of them. That was scary. So yeah, got through that. And then I said, I'm never going to steal again. And I never did. I was 18 years old. But I still had to make money, right? And a $4.25 an hour job, which is the jobs I had at that point, that's what they paid minimum wage, it wasn't going to ever get me out of there and get me to my goals. At least I thought. I didn't know how. So I started lending money to friends. Somebody needed, it happened organically. One friend asked me for $500. He says, next month I'll give you 550. I go, sure. I made $50. And then I told a friend about it. And I told him, as like, you're not going to believe I just made the easiest $50 in my life. And that friend says, would you do that for me? And I go, you want to borrow money? Sure. And I just kept doing that. And it went well. I was making money without having to work. I mean, I still worked every single day. I worked at school, and this is all still during high school. I'd sell chocolates all day, make $30 a day profit, net profit in my pocket every day. And then after school, I'd go to work. And so I was doing that, but then I started lending money, and I learned that passive income is amazing. You don't do anything, and the next month they give you more money. So I started doing that. And it all went great until I was 19 years old, and one guy didn't pay me.
Yeah, I was about to ask about that.
Yeah. Oh, I have cases where I lost a lot here and there. However, here's what happened. The guy who didn't pay me, I wanted to get him back, and I was just upset, and he wouldn't answer my phone calls. And so I tell a friend, oh, by the way, that friend was the one I got arrested with the shoes. I tell him about it, and he's a real smart guy. He's not even alive anymore, like a lot of people I know from early on. He said, let's go teach him a lesson. Let's go to his work, and we'll break his window. And he goes, you don't have to do it. I'll do it. And I go, oh, good. I'm not going to get in trouble. I drive him up there. He breaks the window, gets in the car. We go. And a few days later, a cop calls me. Oh, actually leaves a note in my door. My parents' house, And I get that note. Nobody saw it. I read it. I called the detective, and he says, we already know everything. You went over there. He told me the whole story. And I was like, wow, he knows everything. I called my friend. He goes, yeah, I told him everything. They called me. They figured it out. So got arrested again. And then, so I was 19 years old, already been arrested twice. Great parents, very strict. How did this happen? It's just misdirection. And whole stories behind that. But yeah, so I did get caught up. To answer your question, I did get caught up in some stupidity.
Wow. It's so funny because, there's people who do little things all the time, like stealing or beating people up or vandalism, and they never get caught. There are people who never, ever get caught. And it's funny, you got caught twice.
Yeah, I never vandalized anything before, which I didn't do it, but I was an accessory. I was driving the car. Yeah, I got caught there. The one time I did that, I got caught. Stealing the shoes, I stole a bunch and they caught me once. Yeah. But I guess I wasn't very smart. Also, it's not that I'm recommending, hey, if you want to be a good crook, don't do this. But if you want to be a good person, don't stick around with people who you're getting in trouble with. Yeah. And I'm not blaming that guy. I blame myself on that second one because he gave me that stupid idea and I went, yeah, let's do that. Good idea. A good friend would say, dude, just drop it. You lost $200. It's not the end of the world.
But at the same time, it's like you weren't allowed to continue to be down that path. You know what I'm saying? Like you getting caught is a little bit of an intervention.
Yeah.
Like, no.
I'm so glad it happened. Because what if I would have gotten away with it on a bigger and bigger and bigger scale? I'm industrious. I would have grown something out of that. And then I would have done real time doing something really bad.
You would have been the Cuban kingpin.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh, wow. But, it's also good, though, because a lot of the stories I hear about very, very successful people is that they started off selling something early on in life. And it's like you get all these little aha moments when you are venturing on something like that to make more money or to, go towards your goals financially. So after you got out of prison the second time.
Jail. Prison is different.
Oh, jail.
I unfortunately never had to go to prison. I went to
jail.
Yes.
Jail. So after you got out of jail, what happened then?
I made a decision at 19 years old. I still remember my older brother. I have a brother. He's older, 5.5 years. He bought a house when he was 23 years old and moved out of our parents' house. And I thought, wow, he's living the dream. He's got a condo that he bought and he rents out the extra bedroom and that pays his mortgage. And I thought, that is genius. You get out of the, I'm not going to say torment, but at that age, you don't want to be under your parents' roof. You want to be on your own.
Yeah.
And financially, my brother and I were on our own from a young age because our parents didn't have that kind of money. And so we were always hard workers. And I loved what he did, that he bought a house. And he kind of guided me straight because he said, I told him, now I got this job working with him at a radio station. It didn't pay very much. I made $7 an hour. But he said, I told him, now that I'm making this money, I want to buy a car, and I want to buy a nice old classic car and fix it up. And he said, look, what will that cost you? And I said, at the time, maybe it was like $10,000, $8,000. And he said, well, you could save those $8,000, but then you got to put money into it. And it's not an asset that's going to make you money. But if you buy a house like I did, that's going to help you out a lot. And you get out of mom and dad's house, you get your freedom, you rent the room, and you make the money back. And I go, okay, that's great. He was 23 when I asked him, how old were you when you bought it? He said, 23. I go, okay. I was 19 at the time. And I said, at 22, I will buy my first house because I want to beat you. Mm-hmm. And he said, all right, do this. Let's pretend you still want that expensive car, that it's a waste of money. Save for it. And let me know when you're really close to having enough for it. And then I told him a few months later, because I really worked a lot and I saved a lot. And I mean a lot, like 80 hours a week.
Wow.
2 full-time jobs sometimes. My record was 109 hours clocked in on one job from a Sunday to a Saturday in radio.
Wow.
Those special projects, they needed us to work 24-hour shifts, go back for 4 hours later, come back for another 18.
Wow.
So I did that, made a lot of overtime. And when I got a few $1,000s saved, my brother said, all right, you're this close to buying your first house by your down payment. You going to blow it on that car, or you want to go for a house now? And I go, oh, you're right. Okay, yeah, definitely confirmed house. And so at 19 years old, I made that decision. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to be a man and do the right things. And so at 22 years old, I now had $32,000 saved up. This is in the 90s. That's a lot of money in the 90s.
Money, yes.
And by the way, I didn't have a car payment because I bought an old cheap car. So I had very low insurance. I paid like, I don't know, $40 a month in insurance. Like the legal minimum, whatever I could pay, whatever it was. I paid my gas, I paid my food, I paid all my things, and I paid $400 to my parents every month. So even though I only made $10.50 an hour and I had to pay all these bills, I still was able to save a lot. I was loaning money. I was buying stuff at garage sales, taking it to the flea market. I was working every day. So I was always doing stuff. I bought that house and it was $160,000. I bought like 20 different homes over the years, but that one was my first $160,000 house, put 20% down. That was $32,000. I had a very manageable payment of like $819.60. That was my mortgage. And then, taxes and insurance. But it was a 3-bedroom. So I beat my brother in time and in what I bought. Yeah. So I kept the master bathroom and bedroom for myself. 22-year-old kid, no wife, no anything. I had that side of the house for myself, and I rented out the other 2 rooms at $400 a month each cash. Wow. That paid my mortgage. Yeah. And so that opened my eyes to, whoa, here is a good path for me that I could take. And then 12 months later, I bought my second house, 12 months, my third, and 15 months later, my fourth. Wow. And now I was 25 years old. I had 4 properties. I was renting them out and things were going pretty good. But like every story, there's a ton of ups and downs in every avenue that I went. But yeah, that set me up to be on a better path.
Mm-hmm. And so all this took place in California?
The first 2 houses did. And then in 2000, I moved to Florida, South Florida, Miami. Mm-hmm. So my third property was in Florida, and then fourth was in Florida. And then before I bought any more, I had to sell the California ones. And then I moved over here completely, had nothing, I detached from any investments over there.
Okay. So what propagated the move from California here?
Timing is everything, and looking for opportunities when something bad happens. There's usually something good at the end of that for me. And I've now come to the point where if something bad happens in my life, I go, okay, there might be something good wrapped around this, or it's coming up later. You just got to be patient. You got to take action. You just can't sit around. But after doing things the wrong way, getting frustrated when things went bad, I learned that, okay, wait, something good is coming. I lost my job. I worked at Pepperdine University in Malibu, California.
Oh, okay.
It was like an hour commute for me, but I had this good little job. At the time I was making $12 an hour maybe. But I had moved to LA because I had met a girl. And so I was living there, a few minutes from her parents' house. But I lost my job, and her and I broke up at the same time, like within a week. And I go, oh boy, I'm living in Southern California, which I loved it there back then. But I lost my job and I don't have a girlfriend. She's the reason I moved here. I don't have anything else here. My parents are in California. One day I might like to live in Miami. I was born in Cuba. All Cubans end up in Miami sooner or later. So I remember being frustrated and calling my dad and saying, hey, I was 24 at the time. And I said, I don't know what to do. Like, I usually know what to do, but this has happened. What do you think I should do? And he says, well, one day we're going to retire to Miami. So why don't you, if you're interested, why don't you go ahead and start it all off and go over there and maybe rent a place or buy a place and see if you can get a job, get going if you want to. And I go, that's a brilliant idea. So I don't know, a month later, I was closing on a condo and I bought it in Miami. I moved here. But, you know, like everything, it didn't go perfect. They weren't these perfect steps. I spent 4 months here. I couldn't get a job. I knew nobody.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I just kept trying. I applied everywhere. No connections.
Wow.
Could not get a job. I felt like South Florida was so cliquish. Like if you don't know anybody, I guess that's probably everywhere. You got to know people to get jobs and connect. And I probably didn't do a good job of networking. I didn't know about that.
Interesting.
I would just apply and sit back and wait. Nobody called
Wow.
me. The 1 or 2 interviews I got, they told me, oh, you're overqualified. I have an associate's degree. That's all I had.
Wow.
I'm not overqualified. I guess I was undershooting for the jobs. I don't know. And 4 months later, I moved back to California because I got so frustrated. And I go, I'm not getting anywhere here.
Wow.
So I moved back, and this is crazy. At that point, I had 3 properties. I still had the 2 in LA and 1 in Miami. And I was living in my old bedroom with my parents. And to make it all worse, my brother and his wife, because California was booming, real estate was building up at that time, early 2000s, he put his house for rent, and him and his wife and his son moved into my parents' house. And then I come in. We were crowded in that little 3-bedroom.
Wow.
So I shared a bed with my nephew, my little nephew.
Gosh.
So I remember thinking, I've got 3 properties, I've got investments, I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm 24 years old living with my parents when I've been alone for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And so, did that for 8 or 9 months, and then had an opportunity to move back to Miami. Met a new girl. Now I've been married to her for 22 years, but that's when I met my wife, and I moved out to Miami and to be closer.
That's such a funny story.
Yeah, it's
that
gone
is
back
a
and forth.
really, really funny story. No, like that's really interesting because a lot of people, they try to look for signs like, God, show me a sign that this is the path I'm supposed to go. And a lot of people that I know, if they experienced what you went through trying to get here, they're like, no, it's not meant for me.
Yeah. I don't think we should close our mind. I like to be open-minded about opportunities. And again, like I said earlier, if something goes really bad, not that I'm going to keep going into the badness, but I'm going to keep my eyes open, because every time, and I've drawn this out, I've drawn out multiple lifelines and presentations, born here, currently here. And then I highlight the highs and the lows in my life. I put a date, I put what happened, and I encourage people to do that. I have my coaching clients do it so I can get at a glance on one piece of paper what their life looks like, right?
Yeah.
My 10th birthday was really special because I got surprised and all my friends came. That's fantastic. But at 11, my grandfather died, things like that. And you get to study their lifeline. So many lifelines, myself included. The highs come right after a really bad low. And they usually, in my situation, have come because of that low. Right? Those things happened to me at 18 and 19. I did it to myself. I put myself in a really low spot. Felt like a loser. I turned my life around. I said, that's it. None of this is ever going to happen to me again. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to be a man. That put me on a trajectory to work hard and find opportunities, buy a house at 22 years old. So don't feel like the world is over. Don't fall into depression. Don't, do something about it and use that as a motivation to get to the new point.
I'm so happy you said that. Because for myself, I told you how I went through like a crazy personal transformation starting last year. I felt like I was on a 7-year low. Like 7 years, I felt just mentally low. I felt horrible about myself. There was still like some progress in my life, from like a outsider looking in, but just for me, myself, and just the goals and standards that I have for myself. And the vision of myself that I had, like I guess you could say my little northern star, like I felt so far away from that. And I felt like I was grasping and just trying to claw to find like my true self again.
And what took you out of that and got you on the right path?
You know what's funny? We actually went to a conference last year. It was like one of those motivational conferences. And it like really springboarded me because the events that took place at that conference kind of ignited those low areas of myself where I had really low, I had a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-doubt. I didn't really value myself that highly. And so during the conference, I just had spoke up and it was like probably about 3,000 people. I spoke up about like what I really want to do, like my purpose. And then the guy who was leading the conference, I guess maybe at the time had similar ambitions or something like that. And so like all his people tried to come find me after that. And so I was like, oh, I do have something to say, kind of open up my eyes, like don't discount all the things you've been through because there is value in it. And so like at that time, I thought like my purpose was going to be tied to his. And, I did have conversations with him and everything, but internally I'm like, no, this is not the right path, but I still have something that's of value. So I'm going to still pursue it on my own. And so with that coupled with just my spiritual journey, I'm like, okay, I see what, I see why I went through what I went through. And I'm going to use that to help other people. And I'm going to still go towards my ambition because like for me, I've experienced a lot of weird situations that take place in corporate, and I want to change that, And where I am today, I'm meeting a lot of people who have the same type of mission and value. Like your corporate career shouldn't cause you depression, anxiety, and make you want to ruin your life, right? We can change it. So how do we do that? And that's where I am right now. But I say all that to say, like, what pulled me out was, I guess how God has those situations where it's like, come on, wake up, right? Maybe for you, it was when you were in jail, like, wake up, don't go this way. And for me, it was going through that conference and having all this intention on me on what I was saying. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. I do need to believe in myself, because other people see something that I didn't.
And you going to that conference, really, I like that when you're there, it made you focus on some things as opposed to maybe in those 7 years, you didn't give it that internal attention.
No, I didn't.
So I think people live under a sense of a sort of anesthesia where we just go through the day to day. We're not focusing internally, right? If you go to a conference like that, it's fantastic. Any internal work. That's why in my 31 days, that's what we do. You're looking inside for 31 straight days, and then you got to report to the whole group every time. So those sort of things, I think, are those wake ups that we need. You have to hit rock bottom. You have to focus on the inside, whether you like what you see in there or not. But taking that attention like you did woke something up. And unfortunately, I think people go not 7 years, they go 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They go a whole lifetime just like, well, this is it. And regarding what you said about corporate, that's why I couldn't work for anybody. In my 20s was my last job. And then I've been on my own since then. I've always had a side gig, but it's not for everybody. I'd get depressed on Sunday afternoons because I knew Monday was coming. I hated that. Mm-hmm. And then on Friday mornings, I'd wake up elated. I was so happy that the weekend was coming. And I remember thinking, this is not the life that I want. This can't be normal. Yeah. Some people like what they do. I want to like what I do. And for me, that happened through entrepreneurship. So I hope that anybody watching this thinks that, well, let me try that out. Right?
Yeah.
At least give it a shot. You don't have to sell the farm. You don't have to cash out your 401k, but you could do a little bit of testing with no money or a little bit of money and see if maybe that works. Because corporate was definitely not for me.
Yeah. And it's so funny because even on my journey of entrepreneurship, like for myself, I always knew I was kind of different. I was always a little quirky or whatever. I always focused on different things that my peers may not have focused on as a kid. And so with stepping into entrepreneurship, with starting my own consulting firm, and networking, intentionally networking, oh my gosh, like I realized I have ADHD too, and if somebody else told me that I did, because I would describe the symptoms of what I was struggling with. And so it was actually someone who was on my podcast, and he was like, oh yeah, that's ADHD. I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have ADHD. But it's funny, I learned how to mask it really well because of all the criticism that I received growing up. So I'm like, okay, I can't act like that kid. So then I would just keep the energy inside and just have so much tension.
Yeah, you're going to go crazy holding it in. Yeah.
So much tension. Like I was telling my husband, like the muscles in my neck just from sitting like this and looking so poised when I really just want to be like, you know?
Yeah, you're holding that in, yeah. And it's funny, people have it in different places. Some people have tense shoulders, tense. It's probably from holding in all that garbage that doesn't suit you.
Yeah, there's that. And then with entrepreneurship, it's been so empowering because I'm like, I can really just be myself and I'll grow my business from other people who just like what I'm doing,
That's
you
right.
know? And so like, that's what I don't have to try to fit into some box that some company set for
Yeah.
what other people.
For the masses.
Yeah.
You're not the masses, you're an individual. And if you don't attract, because you're not going to win everybody over, and that's fine. Once we make those realizations, we get some freedom. We're not going to win everybody over. Not everybody's going to love us. That's fine. And the bigger you start getting, the more success you have, you'll see more stupid comments if you put things on social media. Who cares? You're not here to attract everybody. You're here to attract like-minded people that help you grow, and you can help them grow. In the corporate structure, it's the opposite. You've got to win everybody over. It's all the office politics. You got to hope that boss likes you, but no, that boss likes this other person more.
Yes.
That's stressful.
Very. And it messes with your mind. So when I say the mental struggles, because the place where I even started off in my career was a major consulting firm, and the type of mind stuff that they did there, like, and I know it wasn't just me. Like, you know, I caught up with one of my old coworkers the other day, and she was telling me the same exact feelings that she was having with the self-doubt and all that stuff, because they're playing all these games with you to get whatever they're trying to get out of you, or for you to just, I don't know, bend the knee, I guess, to whatever structure that they have put in place. And so climbing out of that and then going into entrepreneurship, oh my God, it was like night and day. Like, there's so many people who are so excited for me and see what I'm doing, and they're so, you know, basically cheering me on and telling me, let me know where I can help. Whereas in corporate, if I ask for help too much, like, people would think I'm incompetent.
Something's wrong with you. Yeah. You know, I think the whole corporate structure to me is weird, because for 100,000 years, we've been around, or hundreds of thousands of years, humans have been around. We never had a corporate thing. That's new.
Yeah.
That's only in the last, I don't know,
100
150 years or so.
like that, yeah.
Somewhere around there. There used to be a lot of independent people, right? Somebody makes bread, and the other person makes iron. And the other person, you know, trains horses, and they would barter with each other, or they have money and they trade with each other. But you were doing your thing. Whatever you loved, you were good at, and you figured it out, and you had that empowerment of every day, like getting a little better, getting a new client, and all the effort that you made went to you. So you probably woke up exhausted because the work was physical, which is great to wake up from having worked hard and you feel good the next day. But empowered and powerful, like, you know, this is mine. It feels really good. That for me was a big difference between working in the corporate world for years, and because 29 years old is when I quit a corporate job, and went on my own 100%. I'd wake up in the morning with this fire to want to work because it was my business. And if today I get a new client and that makes you an extra $2,000, and he buys again next month, that's $2,000. He buys again next. You know, I was wholesaling stuff. That is so amazing. And when you surpass your income as an entrepreneur compared to the other thing is there's massive tax benefits. If you have your own company and you have to go to dinner when you took a client or a potential client, anybody could be a potential client. I'm not a tax advisor, but I'm not an accountant, but that's deductible. You write that off of your taxes. It's like, man, you get a little breathing room, as opposed to employees who are making good money but paying really high taxes, and they can't write off any of that.
No,
right?
It's crazy how the tax system benefits business owners way more than employees. It's nuts.
So I think everybody should. Look, I used to preach that to my right-hand guy, making six figures. He was running a lot of things for me. And I told him one day, why are you an employee? Why don't you go start your own company? I'll just hire your company as my right-hand guy. And immediately, he got so many tax savings. And again, I'm not advising him. I just said, go find out if you could do that. And he did. He became a consultant. And I still paid him, let's call it $100,000. But all of a sudden, miles to work, he started writing them off. You know, he worked that out with his accountant. But he told me in the end, he was saving thousands of dollars a year by having his own company. And then guess what? Because he owned his own company, he now started looking for other opportunities and started making money elsewhere. When he left my company, he went and started his own thing, and, you know, doing great.
Yeah.
So it changes the mindset.
It does.
Also, I like the fact that when you own your own corporation, you have to write, and you're doing well, you got to prepay taxes. And I would write six-figure checks every 3 months to the IRS. That's not the part I liked. I hated that. The part that I like is I want everybody to do that. I want everybody to have to write a check directly to the IRS. You see your savings go up, and then you got to pay that down, as opposed to them gently taking it out of your corporate job where you don't notice it.
Yeah.
Go write a big check every 3 months and see what you think, what your thoughts are on society, on what's fair and not fair. So I remember I'd write those checks and I'd go, I wish everybody had to do this so they could really see what life's about.
Yeah. And you know, there's even the whole bit of psychology mindset shift with going from W-2 to your own, you know, company, your own LLC, for example. When you're providing the same type of services as an employee versus your consultant, those are two completely different. And even how people treat you is different as well. When you're going to a corporation and you're posed as the subject matter expert, even though let's say you have the same level of experience, it's just how you present yourself.
Yeah.
They'll treat you as the expert versus when you're the employee, they'll be like, no, you have to listen to me.
Yeah, that's right. It's very empowering that you're running your own show. It may not be a big show. When I started, I had a spare bedroom, and I had 2 spare bedrooms at one point where I didn't need the rental income anymore. I got rid of the folks that were there. And then I had a little office and a little warehouse. And there were 2 little tiny bedrooms in my condo. And those were my corporate world headquarters. If anybody would have called, they don't know the difference. I wasn't lying to anybody, but I'd say, okay, we'll check that. We have it in the warehouse. I'll let you know. And it just gave me this empowerment of I'm running a business. And one day it's going to be bigger than this. And we grew that. I mean, we were sending 4,000 pieces a day when we grew that business. And it was mine. Those are my products, my brands, my warehouse. You know, we got to grow up, but it started in a little tiny bedroom. But you need that feeling of like, I could do this. I could do it on a small scale. Now let me tighten up and improve the process because one day it's going to be a bigger scale.
Yeah, that's really important. And I feel like it's very, very overlooked, especially for me. And I, you know, so I was so used to just working with large corporations. And so if you talk to me about strategy, like, oh, how do you go from, you know, $1 million, or let's say $10 million and up or something? Oh, that's, you know, I could figure that out easily. But starting from the very beginning and growing, that journey is really, really overlooked.
It's different. It's different to take, you know, in the market, there's a lot of value. That store gives value. That service person gives value. But to go from zero, there's nothing today. It's just a blank, empty room. And I'm going to create a business. And it's going to only make me $1,000 a month today. But I think I can get it to $3,000 a month and $10,000, then $20,000. It's hard. But, you know, we all have gifts and we all have skills and we can learn some of the other things. I personally, I know I'm better at going from zero and creating a business. I'm not the guy to take it from 10,000. I'm 10 million to 100 million. I don't know how to do that. And I have zero interest in doing that. I have friends that have built, I have a friend, a very good friend. He has 700 million a year he took that from zero with partners and they've grown it and they're making a lot of money. That's amazing. That's not I don't have any interest in that. I like going from zero to netting $1 million in a business. That feels amazing.
That's like the hardest thing.
It's hard, but it's what I'm built for. But then there's other people. When I sold my company last year, those guys hopefully will be able to take it to the next level, right? So there's different people in different parts of life that can take a business in different directions.
So how were you able to keep your mindset strong in going from zero to $1 million?
Yeah. So I had to have a job to maintain myself because I had no safety hammock. I had nothing. I had to always work. So I had a job and I had a side gig. And my dream was always the day that my side gig makes me what I'm making here. That's just going to be the most amazing day of my life. I was just waiting for that day. In the meantime, you got to build. I like playing sports all my life and I like to win and I like to build and see progress. I love that. You know, if when I was a kid, I was in middle school, I would do push-ups after school. I'd go to my room and do push-ups and I'd write them down. And if I could do 40 straight, 40 and the date, nobody taught me this. I just thought it was pretty cool to see progress little by little. I'm not going to get to 1 million push-ups ever. But I remember getting to 68 push-ups straight and writing that down, and that felt really good. So I like that slow, steady climb. I don't know where I learned it from, but I like that. I never got rich overnight. I got rich slowly. It took me decades to build sizable net worth and business size. So what kept me strong was knowing where I came from, and knowing where I want to go. But so, about vision boards,
Yeah.
and they're beautiful. And I think it's amazing. Put that house you want to have, the lifestyle you want to have. Yes, have that guiding North Star that you're going toward. But for me, it helps to also remember where you came from and the worst parts. Like, okay, this is as low as I've been. I never want to go back to that. And how do you avoid getting back to that? Constant improvement and constant action. That's where ADHD to me is a superpower. Because if you have those ants in the pants, the things that got me in trouble in school as a kid are the things that made me succeed. I didn't want to ever sit at my desk. I never bought a comfortable chair, ever. I wanted to be uncomfortable. I still have maybe an $80 chair, maybe. I'll never buy a $2,000 chair. I never want to be comfortable in a chair because I've never gained too much from sitting around. I gained from picking up a phone, going for a walk, getting my blood flowing, and having that conversation, maybe a quick email. I want to keep taking action and keep moving forward. So the mindset was I never want to live under a bridge. I never want to live poor. I never want to be how I grew up. I want to get to this. And the mindset was to be true to those thoughts and take action every day.
Mm-hmm. So talking about where you came from.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your life in Cuba before you came to the U.S.
Yeah. So my mom was a physics teacher and my dad was a technician in a shop fixing radios and stuff. Everything's government run, everything. There's no profit incentive there because it's communist. I was young, but I'm not very smart, but I have a really good memory. Verified by my parents, by friends. I remember a lot of things. So I was only 4.5 years old when I left Cuba, but I remember quite a bit. And I'm so glad I have that memory because that's also part of my past, which helps shape my future. I don't want to live in that system. It affects me in a lot of ways. We were poor. Almost everybody is poor in communism. Fidel Castro is one of the wealthiest, he's dead now, but one of the wealthiest men. He has reportedly hundreds of millions in Swiss bank accounts. The very elite government people are doing very well. Fidel Castro and Raul Castro, his brother, their grandkids every once in a while pop up on Instagram in castles with Lamborghinis in Europe, and then they go dark for years. They silence them. They get them out of the public view. Those people have a lot of money. They've stolen it all. The average person, everybody is poor for the most part in Cuba. So that was my future. That's what I would have had to deal with. So that's affected me in many ways. I have, I don't know, maybe 15 first cousins in Cuba. I don't know them. I don't go back. I won't give $1 to a communist government that oppresses people. So I don't know them, but I always felt this responsibility that I'm the one. I'm the chosen one. I made it here. I came on a boat. I spent 12 hours on it to get here as a kid. I'm not going to let this get ruined. Because can you imagine? Let's call it, there's 15 kids, cousins, first cousins. And one gets this opportunity. What if he blows it? What if he ends up being a loser and lazy and a drug addict and making horrible choices? What a disgrace. I'm the one. So I'm here to work really hard and move forward. So I'm so glad. People who make excuses about, and that's all they are. Oh, I grew up poor. I didn't have a good dad. I had all these bad beginnings. Are you kidding? Those are my gifts. I'm so glad I had all of that because that put a knife on my back to keep moving forward. So that's what I grew up like. And then we moved to California. As a kid, I got to California and grew up poor. And again, super, super grateful that I grew up poor. My early memories were moved to a house and I was maybe 6 years old. And for a little while, my parents' money was tied up, the little bit that they had. And we didn't have a refrigerator for a little while. We had a cooler in the kitchen.
Oh, wow.
And my dad would buy ice every couple days to keep all our food cold.
Wow.
And I remember going there to get breakfast and get things out of a cooler.
Oh, wow.
I could make an excuse and say, oh, poor me. Look, I am so glad that happened. I almost wish my kids could live that because then they're going to get that experience of the hero story who started down here and built his or her way up. I artificially do these things for my kids. I create struggle. We have 4 kids and they're all doing very, very well financially and in all ways that you can measure, I think. And it's all through creating those struggles early on.
That's so funny you said that. Like I always joke around with my husband because I struggled, my family struggled at certain times. And it gives you this hunger and this drive for, at least for me, some people it was really discouraging, but for me, it gave me a hunger and a drive to keep pushing forward and keep striving and not taking anything for granted. So I make jokes with my husband, Mark, like, yeah, like when we have kids, we're going to have a house like in the hood so you can see what that's like. And then we're going to pretend like,
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah, hard to pull. A great idea. Hard to pull the trigger on that. But I think we could still live in a safe, good environment and create the struggle. And the struggle that I do are things like, I don't care what other parents do. I don't care that they bought them all these toys. It doesn't matter to me. Go outside and play with a ball. Come outside, come back in later. Make it not too comfortable inside the house. And the way we've done it in different ways is our kids never had the latest technology when it came to like a video game system. They always had one that they bought with their money, used from a friend, and they were always behind the times on upgrading it. And they always had a limited amount of games. We never bought them video games.
Yeah.
Look, I'll buy them exercise equipment. I'll buy them workout clothes. I'll buy them healthy food. I'll teach them how to make money. I've taught my kids how to make a lot of money, but I'm not buying them things that make them sit on a couch. We don't have cable TV in our house. We don't have Netflix. We have Amazon Prime that a lot of people have. We have YouTube. But we don't want to encourage them to be fat and lazy and not moving forward and bringing value to society, sitting in air conditioning. I want them outside. I want them sweating. I want them scraping their knees. And then when they want things, I want to say, great, go earn it. And, my son, who's 19, he's in the Army now. He's away on a base in Virginia. When he was 18 last year, he bought his first car. He had $30,000 in savings. We never given him $1, and we haven't bought him anything in years.
Wow.
But how does he have that? He worked really hard. At 10 years old, he convinced a barber that we would go to, this barber shop, to hire him to sweep the floors. He asked 6, 7, 8 times. So 6, 7, 8 months, he's after that barber. The guy finally says, all right, show up next Saturday, sweep the floors. I'll pay you $8 an hour cash. And he did that from the age of 10 to 13. But guess what he did? He would get that money, $24 maybe, because he'd work 3 hours every Saturday morning, and he'd get a free haircut. And he convinced the barber, he's very convincing because he wants things, to let him put his box of chocolates on the front desk. And he'd make $40, $50 a day in those 3 hours with his chocolates. He put a little sign, Ryan's chocolates, $1 each or whatever. And he bought his own car cash last year, pays his own insurance, pays rent when he's home from the Army. And he's a go-getter. He's building to the next thing. My second son, the next son, the same. And as they get younger, a little less exciting stories because they're younger and they haven't hit those levels. But my youngest is currently 10 and he has $5,000 in the bank. We don't give him money.
Wow.
We're not buying him stuff. He builds it on his own.
That's amazing.
They've all got a wholesale chocolate business, retail chocolate business, and other things that they get into to make money. And they feel empowered. When we sit around our table, we talk about everything, starting with what was the best part of the day. And maybe what did you not like today? We want to get into their mind and know how they think. And then we share, hey, you went to the bank today. What do you have? And they'll show their deposit slip and they all brag and we all applaud them and get happy for them. Just the same, I've pulled out profit and loss statements and asset balance sheets to show assets and liabilities. And we build those conversations about here's how it's done. I started with zero. I didn't even have the language. I got held back in school because I didn't speak English. You guys have a massive opportunity. Plus you have me coaching you. I'll help you. And another thing that we've done is introduced our kids to success. I have a lot of very successful friends and they've met a lot of them. They've even spent time with them.
Wow.
And now their mind is open to all these things. So they don't have that self-doubt that we may have had because we didn't have those examples and those role models around us. So I think it's important to let kids struggle, build a little business, get out there and sell, get 1,000 no's by the time you're in second grade. My kids have had tens of thousands of no's. They've had doors closed on them. They've been told, no, get away. Great. I love it. You know how easy life is becoming for them now because they went through those little struggles, controlled, safe struggles early on.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Joel, it's like, dang. I wish you were like my father when I was growing up because so my inkling for business started when I was probably maybe 12 or 13 and I stumbled across this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, Robert Kiyosaki. Fantastic.
Yes. And I was like, what is this? Like, I've never heard about this type of terminology before. The sophisticated investor. I want to be that, I want to have, the opportunities to invest in things and grow things and make your money work for you, like that concept. I was like, what is this, So that sparked a little seed, but then it's like my journey was the weirdest thing because one summer I had an internship where I was working, and I was probably like the only one out of my friend group. So I grew up in Baltimore, so interesting culture there. So I was like the only one out of my friend group who had a summer internship. I think I was like 13 years old. And I saved every dime. And so when I say like, there was times in my life where money was kind of weird. So I grew up with my mom. And so like I probably saved, I was making like $6.43 an hour. And so spending my whole summer working every day, where everybody else is just hanging out, right? And so I was very, very dedicated to saving things up. And so it comes to the end of the summer, I probably have like $800 like in my bank account or something like that. And I was so proud. I worked so hard and I saved it. I didn't spend it.
Yeah.
My mom comes to me. My nickname is Beans. Beans, can I borrow $500? I'm 13 years old. This is 2003. $500. I'll pay you back. My stomach dropped because I worked so hard. And all the other times when I asked my mom for money, she would be like, no, I don't have it, And so $500 out of the $800 I had saved up that whole year, knowing that I can't ask you for anything. And I gave it to her. And I never got it back.
Oh.
Ever. And I realized like recently that messed up my relationship with money a bit. Where it's like sometimes, I'll make a lot and then I'll just spend it on something, because I feel like there was that unconscious belief that I can't hold on to it. I have to give it away because of my relationship, my first interaction of working so hard to giving it away, and I never see it again, So when you tell your stories about how you raise your kids and how you form their relationship with money, like, I applaud you so much because I wish I had that so badly. Like, I'm an adult now figuring all this stuff out and like doing all this inner work of like my patterns, where they stem from. And I absolutely adore what you're doing for your kids.
Thanks.
Like, I wish
but
I had that.
I want to challenge you to think about it differently.
Yeah.
Try to turn that experience into a positive story for money, for you, because you don't want to lose money. You don't want to take it away from you. What a good reason to build passive income and continue to invest in safe, good things that you feel good about, as opposed to, because look, when you blow it on a material thing that's a depreciating asset, be it a new car or whatever, it's only going to slowly creep away from you. Mm-hmm. But if you buy a rental property, as an example, it's only going to grow.
Yeah.
Sure, there could be highs and lows in real estate, but over the trajectory of 10, 20 years, it's only going to go up. Rents are only going to go up. And now you have that better. So honestly, I would do the work mentally of turning that around.
I have to.
You have to.
It's still sore. I'm like,
I see it. I can see it. So yeah, I'm just challenging you. I love challenges.
Yeah.
To start figuring out how you can rewire that. I don't know the modality to do it. There's help out there for that. But I hear that and I say, that's the moment at 13 years old, after working that hard that summer, that I decided I'm never losing money again. Money is here for me. I'm going to make it work, and I'm going to never have to work again after X amount of years, because all that money I've been building is going to grow, and I'm never going to be irresponsible or let irresponsible people touch my money or make bad financial decisions. So a lot of the stories I've shared, and I've got, my kids say I'm a storybook because I've got a million stories. I could have turned them around in a different direction, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. If you've noticed, I've used these as motivation to get to the next level.
Yeah. That's good. I'm going to turn it around.
Good.
I'm going to turn it around.
Good.
It's
I hope so.
I think I came across that discovery like probably a couple of weeks ago. So it's still super.
Well, it's good. You brought it to
fresh.
the surface.
Yeah.
It's there. It hurt. Good. Let it hurt. Let it sink in a little bit, but don't let it stay there. Now, say, how do I turn this around? Mm-hmm. And what we do a lot of the times is we get a thought, we go, oh yeah, I'm going to turn that around. So you already know if you leave it and let it go and you start forgetting about it, it's working in your subconscious negatively. My recommendation, a Post-it note by your mirror when you brush your teeth in the morning, a Post-it note by your night table when you go to bed, to remember, how do I turn this around? How do I turn this around? And then go to bed and let your subconscious work on that. So that you are turning it around.
Yes. Okay. I'm making a mental note of that.
I love Post-it notes. I love reminders to goals. My son right now, my second son is 17 years old. He's running a half marathon at the end of the year, where he was second overall last year as a 16-year-old. This is a half marathon with a few hundred people. And he was second overall. He's a good runner, and he wants to win it this year. It's in December. So he's got a Post-it note on the refrigerator, so the whole family sees the time he needs to do per mile. 5 minutes, 59 seconds per mile. And he has it upstairs by his mirror where he brushes his teeth. So not only is he seeing it, the family is seeing it on that refrigerator. He can't let us down. So he's running his 10-mile runs, his 12-mile runs. He's pushing it because he doesn't want to let himself down and the family down.
Yeah.
And that's all stems from not leaving it here, but putting it somewhere, sharing it on social media, whatever it is, putting it out there to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Oh, Joel, this was amazing. Like, I'm so happy that you came and that we recorded this podcast. And yeah, your journey is incredible, and your story, I know, is very inspirational to a lot of people. You know, you've come from very, very poor, government-controlled communist country where there's absolutely no freedom, to coming here and presented with many different situations that you could have really fell deep into, but you worked and, you know, stayed on your path. So as we're wrapping up, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for people who know that they really want to make a difference in their lives and to help other people? Like, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for them to get started?
Okay. Let's see. And you didn't preface me. You didn't warn me about this question. So let me. All right. So something that I find of extreme value is constant action. There's no days off. I know he's very extreme, but I'm a fan of David Goggins and his way of thinking. In fact, we have on our fridge, we have a postcard with his face on it. And it says, "No one cares, work harder." And the reason we have that printed out is because when my oldest son went to basic training in the Army, he wrote the saddest letters to us. Hate it here. One kid messed up some property in the bathroom, and now they got us all sleeping outside with huge bugs, and it's been horrible for days, and complaining. My wife is so tough, she went and had that made and printed and mailed it to him and said, "This was your dream. You wanted to be a soldier. You're going to go through some rough stuff. And guess what? Life is like that. Nobody cares. Work harder. You'll be out of there in 10 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever was left." So he brought back all his letters, and we put that on the fridge. So constant action, working hard. I don't know of any other way, because I couldn't work smarter when I wasn't very smart. I'm still not that smart, but I've gotten smarter over the years. So I had to work hard. That I had to do. And at least I translate that now to just constant action. You got to keep moving forward. There's no days off. If it's a day off, like on the physical side, if I take a physical day off where I don't train jujitsu, I don't do boxing, I don't lift weights that day, I don't run, I don't do any of it because it's really a day off. I go for a walk, I go in my sauna, I sweat like great. You're still doing some work so you don't get lazy. So don't take days off, work hard. A second one, you asked for 3. A second one would be to build community. Don't do things on your own in a silo. I did that for too long. I just put my head down and I worked really, really hard. And then after I started learning about networking and building community, I could have learned a lot of the mistakes that I made. And I'm talking $500,000 mistakes, multi-million-dollar mistakes. I would have avoided those if I would have known the right people and made good friends with these people. Yeah. And networking is not about, well, I'm going to get stuff from them. I don't know. If you have a good relationship, maybe you will. One day they'll help you, but try to go and help people connect. So with community comes networking, comes little tiny things. One of the days in my 31-day book it's a challenge series. You got to do something every day. One of the days is to handwrite a note to somebody and put it in the mail. Nobody does it. So I tell everybody to do it, and people in my course do it. But in general, nobody's going to do it. 99% of the people who watch this will not do it. Nobody does it. It's embarrassing. It's weird. I built so many relationships with doing that. I bought 14 companies. One was for sale. The other 13 came from me networking with the owner of that company. And it started, oftentimes, most of those started with a handwritten note put in the mail. "Hey, I've seen your company. I want to congratulate you on the success you've had. I saw you on LinkedIn. I Googled you. You're doing fantastic. Here's who I am. I'd love to meet you. So maybe we can learn from each other, but I'm probably going to learn more from you." Put that in the mail and you get an amazing phone call back. It's never failed me. Maybe a couple didn't call. I don't know. I don't focus on the negatives. I built amazing relationships with very well-known, successful people, a lot of business owners. So build community, be the leader. If you're in an industry and you say it's kind of fragmented, there's no WhatsApp group for the industry, there's no Facebook group for the industry, go build it. You're automatically going to be seen as the leader, and people will look to you to get in the group and then for advice. Fake it till you make it. Don't give them bad advice, but just be the person bringing people together. So we said, work really hard, no days off. This is one. Build community. Another one is live below your means. I have always lived below my means. Sometimes when I've started making real money, living with 10% of what I earn, saving 90%. And it's not to save it in a box or put it in the bank necessarily. It's to put it into investments, because quickly that became its own income where I could live off of. Instant financial freedom. Absolute freedom. Imagine never having to work again, especially if you're stuck in a job or you're just not happy. Well, don't say, well, I work hard, so I deserve it. Let me go buy myself a brand new car. You're just digging the hole deeper, so you have to get into that. And that's what this society wants you to do. Yeah. Then you got to pay a full coverage insurance. Then you have to make a big car payment. And then it just keeps adding and adding and adding. My parents made it in this country having never earned $50,000 combined and bringing up two boys. Yeah, it was the 80s and the 90s, but we lived in San Francisco area, the most expensive area in the country at the time. And they still got ahead. They never bought a new car. They never had luxurious things. But they're happy. I have a friend who his dad is a billionaire, and so he grew up like that. And he's not as appreciative about life as I am. Why? Because he hit his peak early on. He always had everything. And when you're at the very top, why do you see so many rich, successful people go into drugs and have all these problems? Yeah. You know, their sports career or their rock career ends, and then they hit the bottom. Well, when you started really low and you kept yourself intentionally, mentally low in that spending frenzy that people go into, man, it can only go up from there, right? I may see a beautiful car. I'm not a car guy. I don't care about any material things. I'm a minimalist. But if I did see a beautiful car, I go, oh, that'd be nice to have one day. But keep that fire by living under your means, because you can always buy that thing later. Yeah. And I found a lot of happiness in keeping life very simple.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Oh, thank you so much, Joel. And where can people find you?
My podcast is on joelgandara.com. My challenge site is 31dailychallenges.com. It's got a men's challenges, women's challenges, and I'm on Instagram pretty much. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.